Hello, my name is Melanie Brits. I am a soul journey guide and I help people with their soul journey, but mostly I do it through reading their Akashic records. Now, the Akashic records is sort of the energetic imprint of everything that's ever been, was, will be, is. And we can get information about specifically people's soul journeys, previous incarnations, energy blocks, guidance, life purpose, all sorts of information from the Akashic records. Recently, I have been drawn a lot to Leylines and the energy grids that underlie our planet, Earth, Gaia, and how that works, why it's there, etc. And then I had a sort of guidance to actually do an Akashic records reading on the ley lines, and to get guidance and channeling information about what it is and how we use it, and see if I can get information. So I am going into this totally blind. I do have my own ideas about sort of what the ley lines are and how they work, but I'm not an expert in it by any means. And I have no idea what we'll get when we actually do a reading on ley lines and sort of what they are. What's the difference between ley lines and vortexes, and what happens to buildings that's on ley lines? What happens to our bodies when we're on a ley line? How do we use it? Why is it there? So if you're seeing this video, then I obviously posted it, and something interesting came out of this exercise. So I have a list of questions here that I am going to be asking of the records, and I've already opened the records and did my energy protection and meditation to get my own energy fields ready for the channeling, because I didn't want to have delays, unnecessary delays. There might be delays as I get the information, etc. So I didn't want extra delays just with that process of opening the records. So I've already opened the records. I've stated my intention of asking questions about the ley lines and Gaia and the energy and how all that works. So the records are open. I have a ringing in my ears, which is how I always know that I have the records open and that connection is established. And then just a short note about how I get information. It's mostly visual. I see pictures. Sometimes it's a picture of a real thing. Sometimes it's a symbolic picture. So that's mostly how they give me information. When I tell you what that picture is, it's almost like pulling a thread on a carpet, and I can start unraveling it, and getting some energy about it. And that's how my process works. And when I get goosebumps, it's sort of my signal between me and spirit that the information that I'm talking about at the moment is important. So I hope you're along for the ride. Let's start. The first question that I want to ask on my list is, can you please explain to me and to the viewers of this video, who will probably find it for a reason, what are ley lines? What is the how do you see what is ley lines? Which are these, I understand, these lines of energy connecting certain places on Earth, and it's energy that we are able to tap into using our bodies, using dowsing rods, and probably other means as well, but those are the two that I know of. So can you tell me and show me from your perspective, please, what are ley lines? Okay, so they're showing me like a leaf, just the image of a leaf, but they bringing my attention to the sort of veins on a leaf. And it feels significant that it is a living thing, this leaf. It's a natural thing. And then you have veins that bring nutrients, I don't know, chlorophyll, all sorts of things. I didn't take biology, but water and the stuff that the leaf needs to exist is being transported through the veins. So I think they're wanting us to realize that the ley lines are serving a purpose. They're not just there. They are transporting energy to outlying or to all the different places within the natural system of the leaf. And if the leaf is the earth, collective, even collective energy, but Gaia, then the veins are the ley lines, and it transports energy to different places. What else can you tell me about ley lines, please? So I'm almost seeing an image of a gear, you know, those gears that have the different teeth that interlock as it moves. So it's almost a mechanical process. So let me just see what they are wanting us to know from that image. The movement is important, and it's interlocking in a way. You know how those gears, they have the thing, so as they go, it interlocks perfectly as the gears move. There's something in terms of that, how it fits perfectly together. It's an intricate design. So if you have like two of those moving parts, like a watch, you know, the inside of a watch, it's almost that sort of where this one moves that one and this one moves that one. So it's a very intricate system, like the inside of a watch, with all these moving gears, and this bigger one moves a smaller one, and this. So if one of the gears is not moving correctly, it will affect different ones, and the watch won't work properly, which is also interesting. Okay. Anything else that you can tell me about ley lines? Where does the energy in them come from, for instance? The movement, how is it stimulated? Because in a watch you have a battery, or you wind it, and then there's kinetic energy that moves the little gears. So what is the origin, the source of the energy that is being moved in the ley lines? Can you show me that, please? So they're taking me to almost the core of the earth, in a way. I just had another question that come up that I just want to, the tectonic plates, I want to ask about the boundaries of that. Okay, so back to the question of where does the energy come from, please? Okay, so they're showing me almost like a grid. So a lot of us in the spiritual community already see the earth, the ley lines on earth as a grid of light or energy flows. But this is almost showing me Gaia or Earth and other planets, places, all are part of a bigger energy grid. So it's as if you had, so let's say Gaia is a pocket watch, and we have, in terms of Gaia's energy, we have all of these moving gears. But now we are connecting 2,000-3,000 of different pocket watches together, and some of them aren't all pocket watches. They're sort of different sizes. So you have a pocket watch here, and you have a massive church clock, you know, like a big clock there. and they all connected via energy strands. So I'm almost seeing like a field with these different energy nodes, pocket watches, clocks, whatever, and they all have their inner energetic movements, little gears moving around, and then it's part of a bigger grid. So Gaia is connected to other realms, other planets, other places, other energetic nodes, these other pocket watches or clocks or whatever, energy nodes, circulation, the thing is, and they are all connected. So just as there are a ley line that's taking energy within Gaia from place to place to get energy where it's supposed to be for the whole thing to move properly, Gaia is part of a bigger setup where there's also energy flows that is coming. I've never thought about this, so that's quite interesting. Okay, so that's where the energy, it's part of a galactic universal energy grid, and how Gaia distributes that energy within the earth is what ley lines are. Okay. Can you tell me what are vortexes and why are they there? So if we have all of these lines that's connecting and taking the energy to certain places, can you show me sort of what are vortexes, please? Is it only where ley lines cross? Is it something else? I'm almost seeing like a spiral, like a tornado energy that's coming up. And it's interesting. It's part of those vortexes seem to be related to this bigger network. So that let's call it the galactic ley line, for want of a better word, system. So some of them are where energy comes in to Gaia, and some of them are where energy goes out to other places. So it's almost like it's spinning the energy in or it's spinning the energy out. This is fascinating. Okay, so next question. When we situate a building like a house or a church, it doesn't matter, or a government building, a monument, a stone circle, some sort of human construct on top of either a vortex or on a ley line, can you tell me what the effect of that is, please? Okay, so they're almost showing me like something that's vibrating, like a feather that's sort of vibrating in the wind. That's sort of, so the building that is situated on or near a ley line will vibrate with the energy. They almost show me humans as well. So the energy is almost like entraining. So the energy within the building or within the human that is on the ley line will entrain it. So entraining is where, how can I explain this now? Entrainment is where you have a stronger energy that almost not subjugates but overtakes a weaker energy, and so they then start to vibrate at the same oscillation or the same level. So there's an entrainment of our energy or the building's energy that happens when we are on a ley line or a vortex or yeah, there is something in terms of that, because it's a stronger energy, it's a more dominant energy, if I can put it like that, that will affect our, because it's a more coherent energy than ours or the buildings. So because it's more coherent and dominant, it will actually almost overpower our own energy, and then we will start vibrating at that same frequency, something there. Okay, so is that why there are so many churches or monuments or important buildings built on ley lines, or where we feel vortexes intuitively? Okay, so they always show me history, going back years. So humans are, because of this entrainment that happens, we can feel it if we're sensitive. We can feel it when we are on a ley line or when we are near it. And because it's almost divine energies, we can feel it. So those became the places of worship, of power. It's easier for us to reach our higher dimensions when we are on a ley line or power vortex, whatever, where there's an incoming or outgoing stream. And so those became the places of worship. Stonehenge, stone circles, those type of things. And people even built cities or monuments, or stuff like the pyramids of Giza, places on there in terms of what those lines were. Can you show me? And so that sort of persisted through the ages. So you have not a crop circle, but a stone circle in a place, and then later that is replaced by a temple to a goddess, and then that is replaced by a church or a city or a monument or a government building or meeting place for secret societies or whatever. Whenever there is, it's changed ownership, it's changed hands a few times. Okay, there's something else there that I just want to ask, because there's something in terms of the geometry of the buildings itself that's important that I just want to. Okay, so there's a purity to shapes or designs that are in tune with sacred geometry, and those buildings can tap into this energy under the vortexes or ley lines better. So there's less distortion because the design of the building reflects almost the design or the oscillation of the energy better. And so if you have, there's certain places like cathedrals or things that are built using sacred geometry, using mathematical ratios and things like that, and specific geometric shapes that capture the energy, or not capture, but yeah, that vibrate in tune with the energy better. And that means that the building is more effective in utilizing this energy. So there were some secret societies, clever people through the ages that sort of discovered this and experimented with these shapes. And then some of the buildings that we have currently, like the Gothic cathedrals in Europe, the shape of those, almost the obelisk, those the needles, that from Egypt, the ones with the pointy shape, it's almost like a pyramid on top and then it comes down in the fall. That shape is almost like like an antenna to capture a wider net and focus energy, it shows. So humans discovered this. They discovered that if you build a specific shape or something, then the energy vibrates in a more pure manner. There's less distortion on the energy, and so those buildings or shapes of monuments, whatever, will capture, vibrate with this energy better, and maybe even enhance it in a way or channel it in specific ways. Okay. And they almost show me that some of these buildings direct the energy away from the way that it was supposed to flow. So it's like diverting, you're damming it up and then you're diverting and you're creating a new canal, a human-made canal of the energy to another place rather than the ley line. So I think this is related to stuff that the Knights Templar and Freemasons and whatever discovered, and that was almost then taken over or utilized by the Catholic Church and governments, and other, let's just call them other groupings of people, sometimes for their own purposes and the purpose of gaining power, actually, power and wealth, because the ley lines is related to the flow of abundance too, in a way, they're showing me. So if you're diverting, so if I'm looking at like the Vatican City, it almost has this spider web of canals, and other churches on specific places are feeding energy into that very powerful energy node that is being utilized for specific religious, but not really necessarily only religious purpose, but that's sort of an energy node, and the churches are almost like little outlets that's feeding into that node. But the same happens with government buildings, monuments. So there's this underlying energy web of buildings that's almost creating secondary, not ley lines, but let's call them energy channels that we don't necessarily know of. There's something else as well. It has to do, so if you're just plonking a building on a vortex or a ley line, it will vibrate, it will have, but it won't necessarily channel the energy. To channel the energy, you have to almost claim it in a way, and then use certain techniques or whatever to channel it away and to harness it in a way. Fascinating. Okay. And if your building reflects sacred geometry, it will be a more powerful gatherer, grabbing onto the energy, and there will be more energy flowing through the lines to where you want to direct it. Okay, so that's answered the question of why so many churches are built on these powerful sites, and why they, throughout the ages, different religions have built their places on the same sites. It also answered the question how this is related to sacred geometry. Okay, so how can we use the ley lines? How can we know where they are, please? so they show me a car with, the steering wheel turning. But it's almost like driving blind. Very interesting. So if I'm driving on a road, what I see with my eyes will inform where I turn the car or how I steer, or where I feel I need to go. But if I close my eyes and I just rely on my other senses, that sort of deep inner knowing that I have in terms of where to turn, I will be able to navigate not the physical road. For that I need my eyes and my GPS and my rational thought. But to navigate the energy roads, you almost have to close your eyes and drive blind and tune into your inner GPS, in a sense. Okay. How can we use ley lines or power vortexes for enlightenment, spiritual growth, consciousness, evolvement, healing, whatever? If you can show me that. It's interesting so in case of a building utilizing a ley line or a power vortex, we have, if it's built on sacred geometry and has these certain conditions in place, then there's less distortion of the energy and it can be utilized better. So for us, it's almost the same thing, except we are already sacred geometry, sort of in a way, which is another fascinating idea. But so if we are already, our bodies, our energy fields, the way we're put together is already totally in tune with sacred geometry. But whenever we hold on to trauma or beliefs that doesn't serve us, or we have energy blocks or stuff, that's the same as if you sort of adding extensions or breaking parts of your sacred geometry shape, and that will make the distortion of the energy more when you are on a ley line, power vortex, sacred spot. So there's something there in terms of, and also our mind distorted. So it's almost like we have to go into a space of not using our minds, but rather using other ways of connecting to the energy rather than a very rational thought, because that distorts it as well. So just like buildings that are built on the ley lines, we have to try and get back to our perfect divine sacred geometry design, in order for us to make the most of working with the energy, which is also another quite intriguing thought. But yes, so not being present, being too much in your mind, any energy blocks caused by trauma or whatever within your body, your energetic body, and thought distortions will distort your ability to utilize this energy. So the idea is to try and get rid of those as much as you can, and then just spend time there so that you can start to vibrate. And the other thing is, they're showing me it's almost healing to be on a ley line or a vortex, because that energy is stronger than yours, so it will entrain your energy, and it will almost recreate, not recreate, what's the word? Restore that divine blueprint, your sacred, perfect sacred geometry design, and it will start lessening the distortions the more time you spend on or within that sort of energy field, vibrating at that thing, yeah, at that frequency or oscillation pattern or whatever that is. Okay, how do we know where they are? You can use like rods, or you can use your body. Your body is also like a dowsing rod. It's actually a more powerful dowsing rod than anything else. Anything else that we can use? Pendulums. Anything that can start reflecting the vibration can be used to actually tune into them and figure out where they are. Are there lines that have a more masculine energy and lines that have a more feminine energy? Is there a distinction? Or is the energy within all of them the same or not? It's almost showing me, you know, the caduceus, the staff, you know, the staff that they used for medical, the medical symbol, where you have the central thing, and then you have the two sort of side things that go like this. So you have the central one, and then you have the. So it's almost like there's all of this is. Some of it is just the unified energy, but if it's split, then there's still a unified smaller line, and then the male line and the female line. So not everywhere has male-female splits, but there's definitely some places that have. But all of it is in balance. So if there is a male line going this way, then the female line will go that way to balance the energy. It always has to be in balance. And if one of the lines is distorted by, let's call it harvesting or channeling the energy away, or there's more harnessing of the energy so that this one is weaker than that one, then our planet becomes out of balance, and we become out of balance energetically as well. And maybe that's part of what's wrong in the world currently. Can you tell me, what are grid keepers? Grid keepers are keepers of the balance. So they are supposed to tune into these lines and restore the balance, but it's almost like the placement of these souls and the places in which they are born or drawn to work or drawn to live or drawn to travel, there's a design in place with that. So it's almost like a balancing act. So if you need male energy strengthening because this is out of balance in this particular area, then you will have grid keepers that are born there to go and restore those points, or to restore the balance, or to strengthen in some way. And the same with the feminine. And a lot of the imbalance is on the feminine side in our world currently, and so there's more feminine grid keepers being born or incarnated currently to actually strengthen the places where there's some distortion of these energies. Okay, so that's what grid keepers are. Some of the lines have been, it's almost like dried up. So there's parts that's almost withered, like, I don't know. So the lines don't necessarily travel there anymore, and some of that has to be restored. The energy flow has to be restored there. So it's almost like if you have, if you have heart problems or something, and your arteries get blocked by cholesterol, whatever, plaque. So there's almost a surgery happening and going to be happening of these grid keepers, infusing new life into some of these lines that have withered or been blocked, or that are currently channeling energy away in a way that doesn't serve Gaia and the collective. So if you're channeling or using the energy in a way that is not for the highest purpose of humanity and Gaia, then there is a redress that needs to happen and will happen. It's part of the plan. Okay, so the Aborigines talk about songlines. Are these the same as Leylines, as these energetic lines? It feels like a yes, but there's something else there. There's an added. Okay, so there's almost a mastery of the line that happens within, or happened within that culture, where you had master energy workers almost using the vibration of their songs or their voices to keep the grid and the lines flowing, the energy lines flowing, but also to divert it to specific things. And it feels like a more benevolent process, for instance, using a song line, which is a line that's coming off a ley line, and creating a flow of energy to so it's distributing the energy in a finer, more intentional way to the land. So there's more small little lines there, rather than just the bigger ones that we call ley lines, or that we know are ley lines. And they've been sung into existence by that culture as a part of their brief or their mission to look after the land, to be the keepers of the land and the keepers of balance, and keep the song lines intact and going. So that's a beautiful thing, actually, and it feels more benevolent than some of the other harnessing of the power of the ley lines or the energy that has been happening, for instance, with the church or governments or secret societies, because those are the major harnesses or harnessers of the. Okay, so when we're talking dragon lines, can you explain to me why they're sometimes called dragon lines? Are dragon lines the same? Sorry, kicking it. Are dragon lines the same as ley lines? Okay. They almost show me like the dragons are also grid keepers, but they're not in human form. So the dragons are the keepers of the lines, or the custodians of these energy lines in a way. They're not the only ones, but they are like the custodial staff of the energy roads, the energy channels, the natural ones, not the man-made ones, the human-made ones. Are they always straight? Okay, so they're showing me these, so they're not, but they generally want to take the energy from here to there in the most efficient manner. So they will mostly, although they might curve, they're probably not going to go like this, because that's not the most efficient way for energy to travel. However, as the earth goes through changes like earthquakes or mountains being born or whatever, it does distort them, so they're not necessarily always straight. Okay. And can you tell me, how is this related in any way to the tectonic boundaries and the earthquakes that we find on them? How are they related to ley lines? Okay, so the image that comes is that you know how you have muscles in your body and you have fascia, that sort of these things, soft tissue that encases your muscles or attach them to other muscles or things. The fault lines, or the tectonic boundaries, fault lines, etc., are almost part of a different system that also transfers energy, but it's different. It's not like if in our body we have veins that transfer blood, and the blood carries oxygen, but our muscles can't work without the blood or the oxygen or the veins, but the way they move is different from how our blood moves, for instance. So it's related, it's complementary systems in a way, but it is not necessary. So ley lines won't follow the path of the tectonic plates perfectly. It might cross somewhere or whatever. Okay. Anything else that we need to know about ley lines? Songlines, dragonlines, vortexes, the energy flow, Gaia, raising our consciousness, anything about this topic that you want me to add before I close the records and this channeling? Okay, so they're drawing my attention to these vortexes, like the vortexes coming in and the vortexes going out. What are you showing me about this, please? It feels as if there's a lot of incoming energy in a way. Almost like how you will almost overload an electric system, but the electric system will short out, sort of, if you overload it too much. Okay, let's say you have a irrigation system, and there's some sand or stuff that got into the lines. So some of it is blocked and not working as it should. So the whole thing is wonky and the water is not getting to where it needs to be. One way, if to help actually fix the system, is if you put a high pressure inlet into some of these, the end of the hose, and you blast through, almost brute force blasting through, so that you can shift some of these blockages, like sand or grit or rocks or whatever that got into the line. And so using that analogy, if there's brute force, energy, light, whatever, coming in to the system in order to try and clear some of the blockages, then the warning would be that some of the places or buildings that's been built on these might not survive the process, because it will almost, it's like a flood, so it will clear the blockage or the dam that's there, if it's not supposed to be there, and it's not to the benefit of the overall distribution of the energy, then that might actually get blasted away in some sense energetically. And so my thought when I saw this now, immediately went to, like the fire that happened at Notre Dame Cathedral, because that, I think, is definitely on one of those nodes, on one of those vortexes, specifically. And it just feels like a bit of a warning, that there will be more stuff like that. And sometimes even earthquakes happening in weird places, specifically to disrupt the energy lines or established energy, let's call it harvesting lines, or channels, to blast. Basically the aim is to blast the system open. And so if you've watched this video and you've resonated with the information that came through, then it's because you have a job as part of this to help clear the energy. And the first job would then be to get back to your own sacred geometry, purity, so that you can feel and work with the energy. But there's definitely something there in terms of a call to action to grid keepers, or I don't know, light workers, in terms of the restoration of this grid, which has been distorted and utilized for purposes that are not in the greatest good of all. But there is definitely an influx of energy coming into the system, to try and almost brute force some of the blockages that will definitely be under pressure. And so the whole system is very energized because of this. And so it's maybe easier to feel, but it's also, if you have your own distortions within your body, then this energy won't feel good. So our job is to get back to our pure, sacred geometry perfection, so that we can utilize, clear, heal this energy grid. But it's an important task. It's really a big part of the ascension process. Fascinating. Let me close the records and then let's see. I would like to thank the masters, teachers and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the Lords of the Akashic Records for their point of view. And I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed.